Okay, sis. Grab your tea, pull up a chair, and let's talk about what might honestly be the most cringeworthy situation we have watched unfold in celebrity gossip in a very long time, because Lori Harvey is in her embarrassment era, and nobody is coming to save her. Not Michael. Not Damson. And certainly not the internet. Let's break this whole thing down from the very beginning, because context matters, and trust me, every single layer of this story is messier than the last. So here's where our story kicks off. Michael B. Jordan, the man, the myth, the absolute unit, made history by taking home the Academy Award for Best Actor, becoming only the sixth black man in Oscar history to ever win that title. According to Deadline and multiple entertainment outlets that covered the ceremony, the win was a massive cultural moment. Social media exploded. Hollywood celebrated. Fans were in tears. It was that kind of night. Now, when someone reaches a peak like that, it's completely normal for old friends, colleagues, and industry connections to send their congratulations. That's just how the business works. What is not normal, and what had everybody's jaws on the floor, is when your ex, the one who publicly dragged your name through the mud after your breakup, suddenly decides this is the perfect moment to slide back into your notifications. And yet, that is exactly what Lori Harvey allegedly did. According to sources cited by the Shade Room and various entertainment blogs, Lori reportedly attempted to contact Michael multiple times following his Oscar win. Not once. Not twice. Multiple times. And what did Michael B. Jordan do? He ignored every single attempt. Word is, he even had his team put measures in place to make sure she couldn't get through. Complete and total radio silence. Unbothered king behavior, honestly. Because this is where the hypocrisy becomes genuinely staggering. When Michael and Lori split back in June 2022, confirmed by People magazine at the time, the narrative that came out of Lori's camp was not exactly flattering toward Michael. Rather than keeping things classy and private, there were whispers, leaks, and very pointed social media behavior that made it clear whose side of the story was being pushed. One of the most widely discussed claims, reported across outlets like Hollywood Unlocked and picked up by gossip commentators across YouTube and social media, was the suggestion that Michael had a preference for white women, a claim that spread rapidly and, because Michael wasn't out here doing press runs to deny gossip, ended up lingering in public discourse far longer than it deserved to. Lori's mother also made headlines with a rather pointed social media post that many interpreted as a dig at Michael. And Lori herself wasn't exactly subtle either, between a certain license plate photo on her Instagram stories and interviews where she discussed the qualities she supposedly needed in a partner going forward. The message was pretty clear: she was not the one who lost in that breakup. At least, that's what she wanted people to believe.
That's in the light. It'll attract a certain.
But here's the tea that the internet never forgot: when Lori and Michael were actually together, she was singing a very different tune. Per People and various red carpet interviews from that era, she spoke glowingly about their relationship. It wasn't until after the split that suddenly Michael wasn't good enough. Funny how that works. Now, one of the more fascinating subplots in this whole saga involves none other than Steve Harvey, comedian, TV host, and Lori's stepfather, who, according to TMZ and entertainment reporters covering the story, was spotted having a genuinely warm interaction with Michael B. Jordan at an NBA game sometime after the breakup. And look, honestly? That tracks. Because Steve Harvey is a grown man who can maintain his own relationships, and by all accounts, he never had any personal beef with Michael. Their interaction was reportedly nothing but positive and respectful, because, shockingly, adults can handle breakups like adults. But here's where it gets messy. Reports began circulating, per sources picked up by the Shade Room, that Lori was not pleased about Steve and Michael crossing paths so comfortably. Allegedly, she made it known within the family that she wasn't happy about them linking up.
I can't make sense. I saw one of her exes somewhere at a game somewhere and I shook his.
Which is a choice. A very telling choice. Because if you've truly moved on, why does it bother you that your stepfather is being cordial with your ex? That right there tells you everything you need to know about where Lori's head was really at. Now let's talk about Damson Idris, because this is where the story takes a genuinely wild turn. Damson, the British actor best known for his critically acclaimed work on Snowfall, a role that earned him massive praise from outlets like Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, reportedly began his involvement with Lori Harvey around late 2022. They were first linked publicly after reportedly meeting at a social event connected to Odell Beckham Jr., and by early 2023, they were openly being photographed together and confirmed as a couple. Now, on the surface, it looked like Lori had landed well after the Michael split. Damson is talented, he's respected in the industry, he's been praised for his craft, and he is, by most accounts, genuinely doing well for himself professionally. But behind the scenes? Sources close to the situation are now painting a very different picture of how Damson actually viewed this relationship from the start. Per reports circulating through entertainment blogs and commentary channels, Damson allegedly never saw this as a serious long-term situation. The suggestion being made, and this is alleged, so take it for what it is that he approached the relationship knowing it had an expiration date. Which, if true, explains a lot of things, including the fact that he notably did not bring Lori as his date to the Oscars, a detail that did not go unnoticed by the internet. The couple also reportedly had a brief split in 2023, and while neither party offered much explanation at the time, speculation quickly emerged, per gossip sources and social media commentary, that Michael B. Jordan's presence, even as an absence, may have played a role. The suggestion was that Damson had become aware that Lori's focus wasn't entirely where it was supposed to be. They did reconcile after that split. But as we now know, reconciliation doesn't mean the issues were resolved, it sometimes just means both people decided to kick the can down the road. For a long time, Damson Idris kept his composure publicly. While the internet swirled with takes and theories, he stayed largely quiet, which, in the celebrity gossip world, is actually a power move. But according to people allegedly close to his circle, that silence was never because he had nothing to say. It was because he was choosing when to say it. And now? Word is he's talking. And what's coming out is not kind. Sources allegedly connected to Damson's camp, as reported by entertainment commentators and gossip blogs, suggest that he is not remotely surprised by the news of Lori attempting to reach Michael after the Oscar win.
And why are y'all using this moment that Michael B. Jordan won the Oscars as a moment to bring up Lori Harvey?
The framing, reportedly, is that he saw her for who she was early on and proceeded accordingly, meaning he never invested emotionally the way someone would in a relationship they believed had a real future. That's a brutal thing to have said about you by someone you're currently in a relationship with. And the fact that this is coming out now, at the exact moment that Lori's alleged attempts to contact Michael have become public, makes the timing feel very deliberate. Whether Damson personally authorized this narrative to get out or whether it's simply people in his orbit talking, the end result is the same. Lori is currently getting roasted from multiple directions simultaneously. Her ex wants nothing to do with her. Her current situation is publicly falling apart. And the internet has receipts going back years. As expected, social media has been merciless. Commentary across Twitter/X, Instagram, and YouTube has been swift and largely unsympathetic toward Lori. The consensus seems to be that this is a case of a woman who had a genuinely good relationship, walked away from it on her own terms, spent 2 years publicly diminishing her ex, and is now watching that same ex ascend to the highest levels of his career, and can't handle it. Commentators across platforms have pointed out that this pattern, leaving someone, speaking negatively about them publicly, and then attempting to reconnect when their stock rises, is exactly the kind of behavior that erodes credibility and public sympathy permanently. And for Lori, who has always maintained a carefully curated image of being the unattainable it girl of Hollywood, this situation is doing significant damage to that persona. The jokes are writing themselves at this point. And none of them are in her favor. Strip away all the gossip and the drama for a second, and what you're really left with is a pretty straightforward story about choices and consequences. Lori Harvey made a choice to leave a relationship with a man who, by all accounts, was genuinely committed to her and wanted to build something real. She made a choice to publicly undermine him after the fact. She made a choice, if these reports are accurate, to keep emotional ties to her past relationship while building a new one. And now she is living with the consequences of all of those choices simultaneously. Michael B. Jordan, meanwhile, is sitting on top of the world with an Oscar on his shelf and zero time for distractions. His silence in this entire situation has spoken louder than any statement ever could. He does not need to say a word. The narrative is writing itself, and it's writing it in his favor. As for Damson Idris, whatever his actual feelings about all of this are, his alleged commentary represents a man who has decided he's done playing his part in this particular story. And Lori? Well, the blogs are open. The comment sections are full. And the internet has a very long memory. We'll be watching to see what happens next, but don't be surprised if the next headline involves a very public uncoupling and one very humbling era for a woman who really thought she was the one who had all the power. Because baby, power shifts. And right now? It has shifted completely.